Grace and peace to you. I've been talking about blessing a lot this week in yesterday's video and my sermon on Sunday, and I wanted to talk about that word a little bit because I know there are some people who struggle with the idea of blessing, and maybe it could be helpful to unpack it some. And certainly we know that blessing gets used in a lot of ways in the church now, and a lot of them are, I think, unhelpful and kind of problematic. They work in if-then sort of situations. If you pray hard enough, then God will bless you. If you give enough money to the church, then God will bless you. If you do whatever I say, then God will bless you. And obviously this is problematic and manipulative, right? Because we're lording God's blessing over people in an effort to convince them or motivate them to do the things that we think they need to be doing. And that's not how God ever works. God doesn't work in if-then ways. Another reason why blessing can be tricky is because if I do say something like, having clean water in my available to me is a blessing. Well, then what about people who don't have clean water? Does that mean God has blessed me and not them? And that's not how God works either. And so that I think takes a little more time and nuance to unpack, but I will say that I think some things like that have more to do with how humans have distributed resources than the way that God has distributed blessing. I also think some things work in one direction, but not necessarily in the other. And so I think it works in this direction to say everything that we have is a gift from God, and therefore are blessings from God. That anything that is unearned and undeserved and is just given by God is a blessing to us. And so it doesn't take anything away from wrestling with this direction of things to also name the ways that God has poured out blessing upon us by gifting things. Because we know that nothing is truly ours, right? We don't actually earn or deserve anything because everything is God's, and it's all God's things that is entrusted to God's creation and God's people. And so when we think about these gifts, we cannot help but call them blessings because they're things that cause us to experience God in deep and wonderful ways. And they're not blessings in an if-then way. If we were good enough, then we got blessed. They're blessings in because therefore ways, because God is good and because God creates things as holy and God gives these holy things to the world. Therefore, we are blessed. Therefore, we experience God's blessing and therefore we carry God's blessing into the world to do profound things with it. Remember that you are loved and God's peace be with you.